Los Santos is more than just a playground of chaos. Beneath the gunfights, car chases, and high speed robberies, it is a city built on obscurities, layers of detail that most players never notice because the surface spectacle is so overwhelming. Rockstar designed Grand Theft Auto 5 not only as a satire of modern America, but also as a living, breathing world where every alley, billboard, and backroom tells its own story. The prologue of the game offers its own hidden depth. In the snowy town of Ludendorff, North Yankton, Michael and Trevor carry out a heist that sets the tone for the story. To most players, it feels like a one-off mission in a set-piece location. Yet the developers quietly built the entire town, complete with explorable streets, storefronts, and alleys. Players are not able to return to it in normal gameplay, but modders later uncovered unused textures and assets, suggesting that more missions were once planned for the area. It exists as a fully formed space, frozen in snow, locked away from exploration unless you glitch or mod your way back into it. Its obscurity lies in the sheer effort spent on an environment that appears so briefly yet feels as real as any neighborhood in Los Santos. Mount Chiliad, the tallest peak in the game, hides perhaps the most famous obscurity of all, the Chiliad Mystery. At the summit sits a small shack with a mural scrawled across its wall. The mural depicts cryptic symbols, what looks like an egg, a jetpack, and a UFO. For years, players speculated about what it meant. Was there a hidden jetpack buried beneath the mountain? Did completing certain tasks unlock an alien encounter? Rockstar never gave answers, but at 3 in the morning, during stormy weather, a glowing UFO does indeed appear above the summit. This fueled theories that the mural was a riddle waiting to be solved. Data miners uncovered scripts hinting at unused triggers, but whether the mural was an actual puzzle or simply a joke aimed at obsessive players remains unclear. Its obscurity is powerful because it lives in uncertainty, a mystery that has outlasted countless theories and continues to haunt the community's imagination. The ocean surrounding San Andreas contains its own secrets, many of them invisible to players who never dive beneath the waves. Near Paleto Bay, the wreckage of an alien spacecraft rests on the ocean floor, covered in barnacles and algae. Submerged planes, rusting shipping containers, and the skeletons of old boats are scattered across the seabed, creating an underwater graveyard of history. Some of these wrecks hint at stories never told, cargo runs gone wrong, crashes that nobody survived. Others, like the barnacle-encrusted UFO, tie directly into the game's broader mythology of extraterrestrials. None of these sites are marked by quests. They exist simply to reward curiosity, inviting players to strap on diving gear or pilot a submersible to places where silence and mystery rule. Obscurities also lie in the behavior of everyday NPCs. Los Santos is not just filled with mission givers and pedestrians for decoration. Its people are coated with surprising depth. Wander through Vinewood long enough, and you may see tourists snapping photos in front of celebrity homes. Hang around Del Perro Pier, and you can watch couples argue or children play near carnival rides. Out in Blaine County, you might come across campers singing around a fire or fishermen muttering about the tides. Shopkeepers will sometimes yell if you loiter too long outside their doors, and construction workers complain about their jobs if you stop to listen. These details rarely connect to missions, yet they make the city feel lived in. The obscurity lies in how much is programmed into the background, waiting for players who take the time to watch. Vehicles carry their own hidden stories. While most players stick to common cars and trucks, the game rewards scavengers with rare finds. The Rusty Tractor, one of the oldest vehicles in San Andreas, spawns only in a specific field in Blaine County. The Space Docker, a bizarre science fiction car with glowing panels and alien engine noises, can only be acquired by finding 50 scattered spaceship parts. These parts are hidden across mountains, rivers, rooftops, and construction sites, with no obvious guidance. The obscurity is not in the reward, since the Space Docker has no real combat advantage, but in the journey of discovery. It is an Easter egg questline masquerading as scavenger hunt, and those who complete it carry proof of their dedication through the most absurd car in the game. The interiors of the main characters' homes reveal more layers of subtle storytelling. Franklin's house is littered with magazines and posters that reference older Rockstar titles, nods to the company's history. Michael's mansion tells the story of a dysfunctional family through clutter alone. His son's room is filled with gaming consoles, junk food, and parody tech brands, while his daughter's room flaunts makeup kits and trendy fashion. Trevor's trailer is the darkest of them all, with bloody handprints, scattered bottles, and ominous notes suggesting a mind on the brink. Many players enter these interiors only to save their game or trigger cutscenes, but the real storytelling lies in the mess on the floors, the graffiti on the walls, and the objects left behind. These spaces are more than set dressing. They are psychological windows into the lives of the characters. Strangers and Freaks missions expand this further, offering eccentric side stories that most players miss if they focus only on the main campaign. Characters like Omega, the conspiracy theorist obsessed with aliens, give out quests that deepen the game's mythology. Through him, players collect spaceship parts and eventually earn the Space Docker. The Epsilon program returns as Rockstar's long-running parody of cults, with quests that test your willingness to give away money, follow absurd instructions, and wear blue robes. The obscurity here is tonal. These missions are optional, easy to ignore, yet they represent some of the strongest satire in the game. The most fascinating thing about all of these details is Rockstar's refusal to draw attention to them. There are no glowing markers pointing to UFOs on the seafloor, no quest lines that explicitly explain the Chiliad mural, no tutorials that teach you to study NPC behavior. These details exist only for those who wander off the beaten path, for those who slow down long enough to notice. That restraint is deliberate. By leaving secrets hidden in plain sight, Rockstar transforms Los Santos from a playground of chaos into a living city with a soul, one where obscurity itself becomes the reward. The obscurities of Grand Theft Auto V do not begin on the streets of Los Santos. They begin years before release, in the secretive halls of Rockstar North, where the game was assembled piece by piece with an ambition larger than anything the company had attempted before. Development officially began not long after Grand Theft Auto IV launched in 2008, but the groundwork stretched further back, with early prototypes of Los Santos existing as test maps while the team finished work on other projects. By the time it arrived in 2013, Grand Theft Auto V had grown into the most expensive game Rockstar had ever made, with a reported cost of more than $270 million when marketing was included. That figure placed it among the most expensive pieces of entertainment ever created at the time, rivaling blockbuster films and setting a new benchmark for what video games could demand in resources. What did that investment buy? It bought a city that was not simply wide but dense. Obscure details lie in how Rockstar designed systems that most players would never consciously notice, yet which consumed years of work. The lighting system, for example, was rewritten so that the sun and moon cast shadows that shifted accurately across hillsides and highways. Water physics were redone so that waves crashed realistically on shorelines, not just in the ocean, but in rivers and reservoirs. Even the way tires crunched across different materials, sand, dirt, gravel, or asphalt, was fine-tuned by sound engineers who spent months recording real vehicles. Players racing down a highway may never stop to think about the exact pitch of a tire screech, but Rockstar's philosophy was that realism in detail would create immersion subconsciously. One obscurity in development history lies in how the map was tested. Before adding cars or missions, Rockstar built the skeleton of Los Santos and asked testers to simply walk it. They noted where the scale felt wrong, where turns were too sharp, where buildings blocked important sight lines. The city was adjusted like clay, molded into a shape that would feel both authentic and playable. These tests revealed that real-life Los Angeles, sprawling as it is, was too big for a video game map to remain fun. By compressing neighborhoods and landmarks, Rockstar created a surreal hybrid city where a drive from the airport to the mountains might take only a few minutes, yet somehow it still felt like a true journey. The obscurity is that the map is neither real nor fake. It is a dreamlike version of Los Angeles, stitched together from memory and imagination. Development also involved entire teams devoted to background behaviors. Pedestrians in Los Santos are not just random filler, they have routines and quirks that often go unnoticed. Some joggers loop around Vespucci Beach at sunrise. Homeless NPCs huddle under freeway overpasses, muttering unique lines of dialogue recorded by voice actors hired specifically for background chatter. Tourists gather in Vinewood to take photographs, their phones flashing if you interrupt them. Rockstar used a very large cast with extensive performance capture and hundreds of credited voice roles, but the exact number isn't confirmed publicly for GTA 5. The obscurity lies in the unseen labor, hundreds of hours spent creating lines you may only hear once in an entire playthrough, if at all. Another obscure development choice was Rockstar's insistence on realism in animals. For the first time in the series, dogs, deer, cougars, and other wildlife populated the world. Franklin's pet dog Chop is the most famous, but stray animals wander the countryside freely. Behind the scenes, animators studied animal movement and even consulted with wildlife experts to capture behaviors like the twitch of a dog's ear or the stalking pattern of a mountain lion. These creatures are not central to the story, but they deepen immersion. Players who ride out into Blaine County may suddenly hear the growl of a cougar in the brush or stumble upon deer grazing at dusk. The obscurity here is that most of this work was optional. Entire systems were built for players who may never slow down enough to see them. Grand Theft Auto 5's obscurities are not limited to systems. They extend into satire baked into every corner of the map. Billboards across Los Santos parody consumer culture with biting wit, advertising everything from absurd energy drinks to plastic surgery. Radio stations lampoon politics, celebrities, and everyday frustrations of modern life. What makes these obscure is how quickly they can be overlooked. Players focused on the action may never stop to read the fine print of an ad, yet those who do will uncover layers of commentary. Rockstar's writing staff created thousands of lines of dialogue, commercials, and graffiti specifically to enrich the background. Every corner of the city hums with parody, from spoof social media apps to fake movie posters. Obscure development notes also reveal just how many ideas were cut. Data miners uncovered references to a character named Jesco White, a real-life dancer once rumored to appear in the game. Other files hint at missions involving a skateboard mechanic, suggesting players would have been able to perform tricks across Los Santos. These features were never fully realized, but traces remain buried in the game's code, ghostly reminders of what might have been. In Rockstar's design philosophy, nothing is wasted, even abandoned ideas often resurface later. That is why Grand Theft Auto Online eventually introduced content that seemed connected to these early experiments, as if the studio had filed them away for future use. Another obscurity lies in the audio landscape of Los Santos. More than 200 songs were licensed for radio stations, spanning genres from hip-hop to classic rock. Yet Rockstar also commissioned original tracks, including satirical talk radio shows that mock politics, self-help culture, and conspiracy theorists. Behind the laughter, these broadcasts often reference real-world events in veiled form, creating a snapshot of the anxieties of the early 21st century. Listening to them in the background while driving through Los Santos can feel almost eerie, as if the city is holding up a mirror to the real world outside your screen. When the game launched in 2013, critics noted that it felt less like a video game and more like an interactive film. That feeling came from Rockstar's cinematic approach to storytelling. Motion capture sessions were conducted with the actors performing scenes together on stage, much like theater. This allowed for natural chemistry, improvisation, and body language that traditional recording would have missed. Obscure anecdotes from production reveal that some of Trevor's most chaotic lines were improvised on set, with actor Stephen Ogg encouraged to push the character's extremes. The result was a performance that felt unfiltered and dangerous, anchoring the game's wildest moments in believable humanity. Grand Theft Auto V's release was not just a success, it was an earthquake in entertainment. Within 24 hours, it generated more than $800 million in revenue, breaking industry records. Within 3 days, it surpassed $1 billion, making it the fastest-selling entertainment product in history at the time. The obscurity here lies not in the numbers, but in the cultural shift it represented. A video game had outperformed blockbuster films in speed and scale, proving that interactive media had become the dominant form of popular culture. What had once been niche entertainment was now the loudest voice in the global conversation. Looking back, the expense of Grand Theft Auto V was not wasteful extravagance. It was an investment that redefined what video games could achieve. Every dollar poured into development and marketing manifested in details both grand and obscure. From the swirl of waves against Del Perro Pier to the obscure chatter of a Vinewood tourist, from the satirical billboards mocking consumerism to the haunting mural atop Mount Chiliad, the game is a tapestry woven with care. Its obscurities are the threads most players never stop to see, yet they are what hold the fabric together. Story of Grand Theft Auto V, is carried by 3 protagonists, each representing a different shade of the American dream and its collapse. Michael DeSanta, Trevor Phillips, and Franklin Clinton live at the center of the action, but their lives are surrounded by obscurities that most players overlook. Beyond the scripted missions, their homes, habits, and histories carry small details that tell more about who they are than even the cutscenes do. Michael is perhaps the most layered. He is introduced as a retired bank robber living in witness protection, complete with a mansion in Rockford Hills and a dysfunctional family, yet the obscurities within his home reveal the heart of his dissatisfaction. His son Jimmy's room is filled with junk food, parody game consoles, and energy drink posters that mock modern youth culture. His daughter Tracy's room overflows with makeup kits, fashion magazines, and hints of her obsession with shallow fame. Amanda, his wife, leaves yoga mats in the yard and bottles of wine scattered around the kitchen. These details never appear in mission dialogue, yet they reinforce the story. Michael's dream of stability has curdled into a parody of suburban ennui. Even the pool in his backyard, a symbol of success, feels empty when you stand beside it. Michael's obscurities stretch into his past. Dialogue in therapy sessions with Dr. Friedlander reveals regrets about his criminal youth, but scattered conversations hint at a deeper connection with Lester Crest, the heist planner. Lester knew Michael long before the events of the game, and obscure remarks suggest that Michael once promised to retire much earlier, yet could never let go of the thrill. His obsession with movies, shown in his Vinewood studio ambitions, reflects Rockstar's own obsession with Hollywood. Michael becomes not just a criminal, but a mirror of the studio that created him, embodying the tension between art, entertainment, and profit. Trevor is chaos incarnate, yet his obscurities are surprisingly tender. His trailer in Sandy Shores is littered with filth, but if you look closely, you see traces of loyalty and sentimentality. Photographs of him with Michael and Brad hang crooked on the walls. Notes scrawled on scraps of paper reveal his fixation on past friendships. His business, Trevor Phillips Enterprises, is a parody of entrepreneurship, yet its warehouses are filled with makeshift labs and improvised weapon stockpiles that hint at ambition. One obscure detail is found in his bedside table, where a book titled Red Dead sits, a playful nod to Rockstar's other franchise. Trevor's volatility is legendary, but obscurities in his belongings reveal a man haunted by loss, clinging to identity in a wasteland of desert dust and broken promises. Franklin, by contrast, represents ambition. He begins the game as a repo man for a shady car dealer, living in a modest home with his aunt. That house contains obscure details of its own religious posters, cluttered furniture, and personal notes suggesting his aunt's community involvement. Franklin feels trapped, not only by poverty, but by environment. His dialogue with Lamar, his childhood friend, often drips with tension between loyalty and aspiration. Lamar embraces street life, while Franklin dreams of something more. The obscurity lies in Franklin's quiet moments. When he buys his first luxury house, his dog Chop still follows him around, a reminder of the modest life he came from. The juxtaposition of high-tech security gates and a barking Rottweiler embodies Franklin's struggle between past and future. Beyond the main trio, secondary characters hold their own obscurities. Lester Crest, the disabled hacker who plans the game's heists, is surrounded by computers, papers, and references to earlier Grand Theft Auto games. His dialogue often mentions obscure details of the criminal underworld, suggesting he has knowledge far beyond the scope of Los Santos. Ron Jakowski, Trevor's paranoid neighbor, spends hours on ham radios, muttering about government conspiracies that parody real-world fears. Even seemingly minor figures like Simeon Yatarian, the car dealer who employs Franklin early on, reveal satirical layers. Simeon is a caricature of exploitative bosses, yet his office is filled with flashy decor and fake certificates that mock the illusion of legitimacy. The three protagonists also carry obscure wardrobe and customization details. Each character has unique clothing styles tied to their personality. Michael's suits evoke midlife crisis professionalism. Trevor's torn tank tops reflect instability, and Franklin's streetwear symbolizes ambition. Yet switching outfits can trigger unique dialogue. For instance, Franklin sometimes complains when forced into formal wear, while Trevor mocks the idea of dressing respectably. These tiny reactions reinforce characterization through mechanics most players ignore after the novelty fades. Obscure animations deepen this further. Trevor has unique kill animations when using melee weapons, highlighting his brutality. Michael drinks whiskey in his home with slow, deliberate gestures that suggest ritual. Franklin, when standing idle near Chop, occasionally bends down to pet him, reinforcing their bond. These animations are fleeting, but they provide texture, turning polygons into personalities. Even missions contain obscurities. During By the Book, where Trevor tortures a target under government orders, players can choose between multiple instruments of pain. The mission sparked controversy for its brutality, yet obscure dialogue within it satirizes government overreach and the futility of such violence. In Caida Libre, a mission involving shooting down a plane, if you explore the wreckage afterward, you can find luggage and debris scattered across hillsides, a detail most players miss because they move on after the explosion. These mission obscurities reward curiosity, rewarding players who linger instead of rushing to the next marker. Together, the three protagonists and their supporting cast create a tapestry of obscurities that deepen the story. It is not just about bank robberies and car chases. It is about the clutter in bedrooms, the arguments in hallways, the idle animations, and the stray comments that reveal longing, regret, and ambition. These hidden layers ensure that Grand Theft Auto V is not only a satire of society, but also a mirror of human fragility, obscured beneath the noise of chaos. The map of Grand Theft Auto V is vast, yet its most compelling secrets lie in the corners few players ever visit. From the depths of the ocean to the peaks of Mount Chiliad, Los Santos and Blaine County hide countless obscurities designed to reward explorers. Each district, landmark, and ruin tells its own story, waiting silently for the curious. The ocean is perhaps the richest source of obscurities. Beneath the waves lie sunken ships, cargo containers, and even entire airplanes. One of the most chilling discoveries is the wreckage of a crashed UFO resting near Paleto Bay, its metallic surface encrusted with barnacles. Divers who explore this site find no explanation, only silence. Other underwater secrets include nuclear waste barrels scattered along the seabed, collectible through a side activity. This questline is obscure in itself, requiring purchase of the Sonar Collection's dock property before it even becomes available. Completing it rewards money, but the true reward lies in the journey hours of exploring an alien landscape beneath the sea, accompanied only by the sound of bubbles and the hum of the submarine. Rivers and reservoirs also carry detail. The Alamo Sea, a parody of California's Salton Sea, is filled with pollution and debris. Fishermen complain about its stench in random dialogue, and if you dive into its waters, you find garbage, tires, and even abandoned shopping carts. Rockstar filled even the least glamorous parts of the map with storytelling. The obscurity lies in the willingness to make ugly things real, embedding satire into geography. On land, obscure encounters populate the desert. In Blaine County, you might stumble across a group of cultists known as the Altruists. They kidnap drifters, murder strangers, and worship violence. If Trevor delivers random hitchhikers to them, he earns rewards, but eventually the cult turns hostile, attacking him in their compound. This storyline is never advertised, it simply exists for players who experiment with side characters. The obscurity of the Altruists mirrors Rockstar's theme. Behind every sunny roadside lies a shadow, Forests and mountains hide their own secrets. Mount Chiliad, beyond its mural mystery, contains hiking trails where NPCs jog and take photographs. Hunters stalk deer in the woods, and if you linger long enough, you may overhear conversations about their lives. In rare instances, players can find a mysterious ghost near Mount Gordo, a spectral woman who appears at night near a cliff. Investigating reveals her name carved into a rock tied to a murder story that is never explained in missions. This ghost is one of the game's purest obscurities, a supernatural encounter hidden in plain sight for those who wander at the right time. Urban areas carry equally rich secrets. Graffiti across Los Santos tells stories of gang rivalries, fallen friends, and community pride. Some tags reference past Grand Theft Auto titles, creating continuity across the franchise. In Vinewood, parody movie posters fill theaters with absurd titles, mocking Hollywood trends. Del Perro Pier contains carnival rides, but obscure details like the music of the Ferris wheel or the chatter of NPCs make it feel alive. Rockstar invested time in creating spaces that exist not for missions, but for ambiance. Interiors hidden in the city offer more. Some buildings that appear locked can actually be glitched into, revealing unused rooms and assets. Modders discovered half-finished interiors for restaurants, nightclubs, and even offices, suggesting cut content. The obscurity lies in the presence of things meant to be unseen, fragments of development left behind like fossils. Players who stumble into them discover echoes of what might have been. Even the highways tell stories. Billboards parody everything from reality shows to pharmaceutical ads. Radio DJs comment on traffic jams, while NPC drivers react with curses and gestures if you cut them off. These details add humor and authenticity, yet most players speed past them without noticing. The obscurity lies in the background, the satire woven into things designed to be ignored. Together, these hidden corners form the soul of San Andreas. From the depths of the ocean to the heights of its mountains, from ghostly apparitions to cultist ambushes, Grand Theft Auto V rewards those who pause and look closer. The map is not just a playground, but a canvas painted with obscurities, waiting quietly to be discovered. Grand Theft Auto V is often remembered for its explosive heists and chaotic missions, yet some of its richest obscurities lie in the side stories, encounters that many players skip because they do not appear essential. The Strangers and Freaks missions expand the world into something stranger, darker, and more humorous than the main story alone. These optional quests are where Rockstar's satire becomes sharpest, where obscure references to real-world culture mix with absurd characters who live on the margins of Los Santos. One of the most memorable is Omega, a conspiracy theorist who lurks in the desert. He rants about extraterrestrials, insisting they are watching humanity from above. His storyline ties directly into the spaceship part collectibles, 50 scattered fragments hidden across the world. Completing his tasks leads to the Space Docker, a bizarre car adorned with glowing panels and alien sound effects. The obscurity lies not just in the quest itself, but in how Omega embodies Rockstar's tradition of mocking obsession. He believes he has uncovered truth, but all he offers you is a clunky vehicle with no real advantage. The reward is not power but satire, an Easter egg disguised as triumph. The Epsilon program returns as another obscure highlight. This parody of cult religions has appeared in earlier Grand Theft Auto games, but in Los Santos, it takes new form. Joining the program requires Michael to wear blue robes, donate money, and follow absurd instructions. The missions poke fun at blind faith, materialism, and the desire for belonging. Obscurely, the final outcome allows multiple paths. You can betray the cult and walk away with their money, or you can remain loyal and be left with nothing but devotion. The program's website, accessible on in-game phones, deepens the satire, filled with nonsensical spiritual jargon and fake testimonials. It is not just a side quest, it is a multimedia parody hidden within the world. Other Strangers and Freaks offer smaller but equally obscure stories. Barry the activist ropes Franklin into drug-related antics, satirizing both legalization debates and the hypocrisies of activism. Tanya, an old friend of Franklin's, repeatedly asks him to help tow cars, representing the struggles of working-class survival in a city obsessed with glamour. Beverly, a paparazzo, enlists Franklin in invasive photography, lampooning celebrity culture. Each of these characters exaggerates societal trends to the point of absurdity, yet they also highlight how Los Santos thrives on exploitation. Trevor's side quests carry their own darkness. Encounters with Rampages, where Trevor slaughters waves of enemies, serve not as gameplay filler, but as satire of video game violence itself. Rockstar built them as commentary. They break the rhythm of realism to show Trevor at his most caricatured. Even Trevor's dealings with the cannibalistic altruist cult feed into this obscurity. If you deliver enough hitchhikers to them, they eventually turn on Trevor, forcing a firefight in their compound. It is a side story easily missed, yet it reveals how even violence has rules in Los Santos. Excess eventually devours itself. Beyond official missions, random events populate the map with obscurities. A stolen purse in Vinewood, a drunken NPC needing a ride home, or a couple arguing on the beach. These encounters trigger spontaneously, often vanishing if ignored. They reward players who explore at a slower pace. One of the most chilling involves a faint scream heard in the woods, where players may stumble upon a body being buried. These moments are never referenced again, never explained, existing solely as fragments of a wider world. They remind players that Los Santos is alive, with stories too small for headlines, but too strange to ignore. Obscurities also extend into the way the three protagonists interact with these side stories. Franklin often questions the point of helping eccentric strangers. Michael shows disdain for their nonsense, and Trevor embraces their madness. These reactions personalize the quests, turning satire into characterization. A mission that feels absurd with Trevor may feel frustratingly mundane with Michael, reinforcing their personalities through shared encounters. Even collectibles carry obscurities beyond simple checklists. Letters scattered across the map piece together the murder of Leonora Johnson, a fictional actress whose tragic story satirizes Hollywood exploitation. Nuclear waste barrels under the sea tie into environmental commentary, mocking corporate greed. Hidden packages reference earlier games, rewarding longtime fans with continuity. These collectibles transform scavenger hunts into obscure storytelling devices, embedding narrative into chores. The obscurity of Strangers, Freaks, and random encounters is that they are optional. Many players rush through the main story and never meet Omega, never join the Epsilon program, never uncover Leonora's letters. Yet for those who do, Los Santos becomes deeper, stranger, and more reflective of reality. These are the shadows of the city, the lives ignored by the headlines, yet vital to understanding its soul. If the roads and buildings of Los Santos are its body, then the sounds of the city are its heartbeat. Grand Theft Auto V is filled with an auditory landscape that ranges from licensed music to satirical talk radio, from ambient noises to obscure voice lines that most players never hear. The soundscape is as rich as the visuals, and its obscurities lie in the details that often fade into the background. Radio stations have always defined Grand Theft Auto, and Los Santos continues the tradition with more than 15 options spanning genres. There is classic rock, hip hop, electronic, reggae, pop, and more, each curated with tracks that capture a specific vibe, but obscurities lie in the stations beyond the music. Talk radio shows satirize politics, self help culture, conspiracy theories, and celebrity lifestyles. The hosts and callers parody real world trends of the early 2010s, creating a time capsule of anxieties and absurdities. For players who let the dialogue play, the city reveals its humor not just in missions but in idle drives down the freeway. Obscure details abound in specific stations. Radio Mirror Park, for instance, represents indie and electronic culture, poking fun at hipster trends. Los Santos Rock Radio features tracks that resonate with Michael's midlife crisis, subtly tying radio to character identity. West Coast Classics brings Franklin's world to life with iconic hip-hop tracks. Trevor often fits best with Blaine County Talk Radio, which descends into bizarre arguments about survivalism and paranoia. The obscurity here is that the stations do not simply exist as background, they are woven into narrative, reinforcing character arcs and setting. Even commercials between songs carry satire. Fake ads sell absurd products like alcoholic cereals or parody pharmaceuticals. One memorable ad promotes Life Invader, the in-game social media network, mocking tech giants and data collection. These ads are short, but Rockstar recorded dozens of them, ensuring that even background filler drips with commentary. Obscurely, many of these commercials reference each other, creating a shared universe of parody brands across Rockstar's franchises. Environmental sounds deepen immersion. Stand on a street corner and you hear car horns, snippets of pedestrian conversations, and the distant wail of sirens. Sit near Vespucci Beach and waves crash against the sand while seagulls cry overhead. In the desert, crickets chirp at night and coyotes howl across the scrub. These sounds are subtle, easy to ignore during firefights, yet they shape memory. Players may not recall a specific dialogue line, but they remember the mood created by ambient noise. Voice acting also carries obscurities. Rockstar hired more than 1,000 actors, many of whom recorded only a handful of lines. Background conversations reveal stories that never appear in missions. A homeless man might lament losing his job at a factory. A taxi driver might complain about traffic. A tourist might gush about Vinewood stars. These lines are easy to miss, drowned out by chaos, but they enrich the texture of the world. In some cases, they even tie into satire of the main story, mocking themes of greed and disillusionment. Another obscurity lies in how the protagonists respond to the soundscape. Michael sometimes hums along to old rock songs in his car. Franklin comments on tracks that resonate with his upbringing. Trevor occasionally screams nonsense over the radio, interrupting songs with his chaos. These unscripted reactions personalize the soundtrack, blending narrative with mechanics. The obscurity of sound design even extends to silence. During tense missions, background music fades, leaving only the sound of footsteps and breathing. In underwater sequences, the muffled rush of bubbles creates claustrophobia. The absence of music in certain scenes forces players to focus on environmental noise, amplifying tension. Silence becomes its own soundtrack, obscured by expectation until it strikes. Together, the soundscape of Los Santos is more than entertainment, it is storytelling. From the satire of talk radio to the poetry of ambient waves, from background conversations to moments of silence, every sound carries meaning. The obscurity is that many players never listen closely, yet the city speaks constantly, weaving its commentary through the air. Grand Theft Auto 5 is often called a crime drama, but beneath its explosions and robberies, it is also a satire of modern consumer culture. Los Santos is more than a parody of Los Angeles. It is a reflection of how technology, money, and fame dominate daily life. Everywhere you look, obscurities reinforce this parody, hidden in websites, billboards, storefronts, and background conversations. The city does not simply mimic reality, it exaggerates it into absurdity, creating a mirror that is both hilarious and unsettling. One of the clearest examples is Life Invader, Rockstar's parody of Facebook and other social media platforms. Life Invader appears in missions, but its full obscurity lies in the in-game website that players can browse on their characters' phones or computers. The site is filled with parody profiles, fake status updates, and intrusive ads, mocking the commercialization of online life. One fake ad insists that privacy is for losers, while another encourages users to overshare everything about their personal lives. The site is so detailed that players can scroll for minutes, reading nonsense posts that parody real online habits. This is not just background decoration, it is a fully realized satire hidden behind a mechanic many players ignore. The satire deepens in the mission Friend Request, where Michael infiltrates Life Invader headquarters during a product launch. The office is filled with details that lampoon Silicon Valley culture: beanbag chairs, snack bars, employees playing ping pong. Posters on the wall spout motivational slogans about innovation and disruption, mocking the shallow branding of tech companies. The obscurity lies in the accuracy. Rockstar studied real tech offices to create an exaggerated version, making it both ridiculous and believable. The climax of the mission, where a rigged smartphone explodes during a presentation, satirizes the obsession with product launches and the blind faith of consumers who line up for devices they do not need. Satire extends to iFruit, Rockstar's parody of Apple. The iFruit phone is the default communication device for all three protagonists, complete with sleek design and absurd apps. Its menus are filled with parody icons, and its text messages often include spam that ridicules marketing culture. Outside the game, Rockstar even released a real iFruit companion app, allowing players to train Chop or customize cars. The obscurity here is that the parody spilled into reality, with fans downloading an app that mocked the very consumer culture they were participating in. Billboards across Los Santos expand the satire into every corner of the city. Fake brands advertise products that range from the bizarre to the grotesque. You might see an ad for Pisswasser beer, mocking cheap alcohol and frat culture, or for Sprunk, Rockstar's long-running parody of energy drinks. Obscure slogans cover highways, from diet pills that promote unhealthy habits to reality shows promising fame without effort. Each ad is a joke in itself, but together they create a city suffocating under consumerism. Los Santos is not just filled with cars and crime, it is filled with ads trying to sell you something at every turn. Even the clothing brands carry satire. Binko, Suburban, and Ponsonby's represent different levels of fashion culture. Binko sells cheap, generic clothes, a parody of budget retail stores. Suburban mocks hipster fashion, filled with overpriced casual wear. Ponsonby's represents high-end luxury, dripping with pretension. The obscurity lies in how these stores affect gameplay. Franklin, Michael, and Trevor react differently when shopping, making remarks that reflect their personalities. Trevor scoffs at luxury, Michael appreciates it, and Franklin embraces style as part of his ambition. Clothing is not just cosmetic, it is character commentary hidden in shopping mechanics. Television within the game continues the parody. Sit down in a character's home, and you can watch full programs that satirize reality shows, cartoons, and news broadcasts. Republican Space Rangers mocks militarism and nationalism through a ridiculous sci-fi parody. Kung Fu Rainbow Laser Force exaggerates Saturday morning cartoons, blending absurd action with nonsensical morals. News reports parody the sensationalism of modern media, exaggerating stories about crime and celebrities. Many players never stop to watch these shows, yet they are fully produced with voice acting, animation, and scripts. The obscurity lies in Rockstar's dedication. They created entire television channels most players ignore. The internet within Los Santos is another overlooked treasure trove. Characters can browse dozens of parody websites, each mocking aspects of modern culture. There are dating sites filled with absurd profiles, shopping sites that sell nonsensical products, conspiracy theory forums dripping with paranoia, and financial sites that mock capitalism. Even spam emails appear in characters' inboxes, filled with scams that parody real online fraud. These obscurities build immersion not through missions but through optional browsing, rewarding players who explore digital spaces as thoroughly as physical ones. The satire even touches politics. Campaign ads for candidates like Jock Cranley appear on billboards and radio, mocking real-world political slogans. Cranley, a washed-up stuntman running for governor, represents celebrity culture in politics. His campaign is filled with contradictions, promising freedom while supporting corporate greed. Other candidates mock progressive politics with equal exaggeration, creating a world where no ideology is safe from parody. The obscurity lies in how these campaigns permeate the background. You can ignore them, but they shape the atmosphere of Los Santos, reminding players that corruption runs through every institution. Even everyday items carry satire. Snacks sold in convenience stores parody unhealthy diets. Ammu-Nation, the gun store chain, parodies America's gun culture, with employees cheerfully promoting deadly weapons like consumer products. Car customization shops like Los Santos Customs mock the obsession with modifying cars for vanity rather than performance. These elements are woven so tightly into the gameplay that many players forget they are satire at all, yet each one exaggerates a real cultural trend. Dialogue adds further obscurities. Pedestrians talk about their online lives, their obsession with reality shows, and their consumer habits. Some NPCs complain about the price of coffee, others brag about their phones, and still others argue about diets. These throwaway lines mock the trivial obsessions of modern society, yet they are easy to miss while driving by. The city is filled with chatter, and every voice contributes to the parody. The brilliance of Grand Theft Auto V's satire is that it does not lecture. It embeds parody into the environment, letting players discover it at their own pace. The obscurity lies in the density. There are too many jokes, too many references, for any one player to notice in a single playthrough. Every time you stop to read a billboard, listen to a radio ad, or watch an in-game television show, you uncover a new layer of commentary. Together, these obscurities create a portrait of modern life, exaggerated into absurdity. Los Santos is not just a playground for crime, it is a satire of technology, consumerism, politics, and fame. The most obscure details are not the explosions or heists, but the spam emails, the parody dating profiles, the fake commercials, and the throwaway lines from pedestrians. These are the things most players never see, yet they define the soul of Los Santos. The city is a joke told with a straight face, waiting quietly for those who take the time to listen. Grand Theft Auto 5 is immense, yet its final form hides an entire world of cut content, abandoned ideas, and mysterious leftovers in the game files. Like all ambitious projects, Rockstar dreamed bigger than what could be finished, and while many features never saw release, fragments of them remain, preserved as obscurities for data miners and dedicated fans to uncover. One of the most famous pieces of cut content is the skateboard mechanic. References in the files suggest that Rockstar at one point planned to allow players to ride skateboards across Los Santos, performing tricks much like in the Tony Hawk series. Animations for mounting and dismounting boards were partially complete, and a few unused audio lines refer to skating. The feature was abandoned, likely due to complexity or balance issues, but its traces remain. To this day, players imagine what it would have been like to grind rails down Vespucci Beach or perform tricks on Vinewood Boulevard, a glimpse of a more playful Los Santos that never came to be. Another obscurity comes from the mission files. Jesco White is actually in the released game as the DJ of Rebel Radio. The cut character idea is fan speculation, not documented cut content. He would have been tied to Trevor's chaotic lifestyle, perhaps as a parody of rural counterculture. Though never included, the discovery of his name in early builds fueled speculation about how Rockstar selects inspirations for its eccentric characters. Cut interiors form another layer of obscurity. Hidden in the code are unfinished versions of restaurants, nightclubs, and office buildings. Some can be accessed through mods or glitches, revealing half-built rooms with textures applied but no functionality. These ghostly spaces suggest missions or side activities that were once planned, then abandoned. For example, unused files show references to burglary mechanics, hinting that Rockstar originally considered bringing back features from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where players could break into houses at night to steal valuables. The system was scrapped, but fragments remain in code and design notes. Obscure references also point to expanded law enforcement mechanics. Early builds included files suggesting more detailed police behavior, with undercover officers, negotiators, and riot control units. Some players speculate that Rockstar scaled back these systems to balance gameplay, avoiding a law enforcement AI that might feel oppressive. Yet their traces hint at a more complex world, one where the consequences of crime might have been harsher and more nuanced. One of the strangest discoveries relates to the Mount Chiliad mystery. Data miners uncovered unused triggers tied to weather patterns, time of day, and player actions. These triggers suggest that Rockstar once considered more elaborate conditions for unlocking hidden events at the mountain's summit. While UFO sightings remain in the final game, the unused files have fueled endless theories about a jetpack or other rewards tied to the mural. Whether these triggers were abandoned ideas or deliberate red herrings is unclear, but their presence keeps the mystery alive. Cut weapons also form part of the obscurities. Early development versions included references to a silenced assault rifle, a futuristic sniper, and even a cattle prod. Some of these may have been prototypes for later additions to Grand Theft Auto Online, where Rockstar has steadily introduced new weapons over time. The obscurity lies in how single-player and online development blurred together, with abandoned ideas in one mode resurfacing years later in another. Vehicles carry similar stories. References to vehicles not found in the final single-player files suggest that Rockstar originally planned a broader variety of aircraft and boats. A few unfinished textures show experimental designs, while unused handling data describes vehicles that never appear. These scraps offer a glimpse of an even denser San Andreas, filled with more ways to traverse its terrain. Obscure AI behavior was also discovered. In the code, there are scripts for NPCs to perform more complex daily routines, including grocery shopping, visiting gyms, or attending events. While NPCs in the final game still display remarkable variety, these cut behaviors suggest Rockstar once envisioned a simulation closer to real life. The idea may have proven too ambitious, risking technical strain, but the remnants remind us of what was almost achieved. Rockstar's approach to cut content often leaves deliberate mysteries. Unlike many studios, they rarely comment on abandoned features, preferring silence. This has led to speculation that some content was intentionally left in the files to spark curiosity, fueling the myth-making culture of the community. The Chiliad mural, the underwater UFO, and the unused scripts together form a tapestry of obscurity that blurs the line between accident and design. Were these features abandoned because of deadlines, or were they left behind to inspire endless theories? The answer remains unknown. Even the story itself shows traces of alteration. Early trailers for Grand Theft Auto V include shots and lines of dialogue not found in the final release. Characters appear in different clothes, missions unfold in altered ways, and locations are used differently. These differences suggest that story missions were rewritten late in development, reshaping the narrative. Observant fans have cataloged these discrepancies, treating them as clues to an alternate version of the game that never existed. Another obscurity involves online content bleeding into single-player files. Data miners discovered references to heists and properties planned for single-player expansions, but these were never released. Instead, Rockstar poured resources into Grand Theft Auto Online, turning it into a constantly updated platform. This shift remains controversial as players still speculate about the canceled single-player DLC. Traces of it survive in unused code, suggesting missions that would have extended Michael, Franklin, and Trevor's stories. The obscurity lies in this ghost of lost potential, a future cut short by the success of online multiplayer. The files even include strange references to animals never seen in the game, such as sharks in rivers or exotic birds in forests. These may have been experiments for wildlife systems, later trimmed for balance, yet their presence adds mystery, suggesting worlds just out of reach. Cut content is more than trivia. It is a parallel version of Grand Theft Auto V that exists only in fragments. The skateboard mechanic, the burglary system, the scrapped interiors, the abandoned NPC routines, and the missing missions form shadows of what could have been. Each discovery fuels imagination, turning data mining into a form of archaeology. The obscurity lies in the knowledge that Los Santos is both vast and incomplete, a city haunted by features that nearly came to life. When most players think of Grand Theft Auto V, they picture neon-lit streets, speeding cars, and chaotic heists, but much of the game's soul lies outside the city. Beyond the skyscrapers of Los Santos stretch deserts, mountains, forests, and oceans, all populated with wildlife and natural storytelling that many players never fully explore. Rockstar poured immense detail into these spaces, ensuring that even the quiet corners of San Andreas feel alive. The obscurity of the wilderness lies in how much is hidden, how many details exist without ever being acknowledged in missions or dialogue, waiting only for explorers to find them. For the first time in the series, Rockstar introduced a full ecosystem of animals: dogs, cats, deer, boars, coyotes, cougars, mountain lions, sharks, dolphins, and even killer whales populate the world. Each species carries unique behaviors. Coyotes howl in packs at night, scavenging roadsides and startling players who wander too close. Deer scatter realistically when startled by gunfire, bounding through woods and meadows in frantic leaps. Cougars and mountain lions stalk silently, leaping onto unsuspecting players with a sudden roar, turning exploration into tension-filled encounters. These predators were programmed to roam wide territories, meaning their appearance often feels random, as if San Andreas itself has moods. Franklin's dog, Chop, provides the most personal connection to the wildlife system. Chop can accompany Franklin on walks, attack enemies, and even sniff out collectibles if trained through the iFruit Companion app. While many players treat Chop as a novelty, his presence reflects Rockstar's push toward realism in animal AI. He barks at strangers, growls at threats, and wags his tail when Franklin shows affection. Obscure details include his ability to sniff out hidden spaceship parts and his unique reactions to other dogs in the game. Chop is more than a sidekick. He is an anchor to Franklin's identity, tying him back to his roots even as his ambitions grow. Marine life forms an entirely different layer of obscurity. Beneath the waves, Rockstar built an aquatic ecosystem with fish, sharks, dolphins, stingrays, and whales. Sharks circle players who swim too far from shore, sometimes attacking in terrifying bursts. Dolphins leap from waves in groups, often missed by players speeding past in boats. Killer whales roam deep ocean trenches, rarely seen unless players use a submarine. These details add weight to the ocean, making it more than empty water. Obscurely, even seagulls and pelicans along the shore behave like real birds, scattering if startled and hunting fish near the surface. Nature is not just alive through animals, it tells stories through landscapes. The Alamo Sea, modeled after California's Salton Sea, is a polluted inland body of water. Fishermen complain about its stench in random dialogue, and players who dive beneath its surface find garbage, tires, and rusting debris. This is not a glamorous space, yet Rockstar built it with as much detail as the luxury districts of Los Santos. The obscurity lies in how environmental storytelling reveals the failures of industry and humanity woven into geography itself. Mount Chiliad, already famous for its UFO mystery, also holds subtler wildlife stories. Hikers climb its trails, photographing vistas and commenting on the view. Hunters stalk deer in the woods, sometimes leading to random encounters where players can overhear their conversations. If you wander at night, owls hoot in the distance, and coyotes howl across valleys. Rarely, bears can be spotted in modded versions of the game, though they never made it into the final release. Chiliad's ecosystem mirrors the variety of California's wilderness, yet its obscurities are often lost on players focused only on its mural. Forests around Paleto Bay contain their own secrets. Rangers patrol trails, campers sing around fires, and abandoned campsites suggest stories of travelers long gone. Obscure details include scattered notes, beer bottles, and fishing rods left behind, environmental clutter that hints at unseen lives. Unlike scripted missions, These objects exist simply to enrich atmosphere. They make the forests feel lived in, as though San Andreas has its own unseen residents moving through spaces when the player is not looking. The desert of Blaine County expands the wilderness into satire and obscurity. Its scrublands stretch endlessly, filled with rattlesnakes, coyotes, and the occasional cougar. Abandoned trailers, rusting cars, and burned out houses dot the landscape. Many of these ruins serve no purpose beyond environmental storytelling. They are snapshots of poverty, crime, or forgotten ambition. Players may stumble across graffiti on a derelict wall or a rusting billboard advertising a failed business. Each ruin is an obscurity in itself, a reminder that San Andreas is not only a land of glamour, but also of decay. Ghost stories lurk in the wilderness as well. Near Mount Gordo, a spectral woman appears on a cliffside at night. She vanishes if approached too closely, but her name, Jolene Cranley Evans, appears in blood on the rocks, referencing a backstory where she was murdered by her husband, Jock Cranley, a politician running for governor. This ghostly event is never acknowledged in missions, never explained, existing only for players who wander into the right place at the right time. It is one of the purest obscurities in the game, a supernatural secret hidden in an otherwise grounded world. The wilderness also hides Easter eggs tied to Rockstar's other games. Hints of Red Dead Redemption appear in references to vanished towns, while strange inscriptions on rocks fuel speculation about connections to earlier titles. These links are rarely explicit, but suggest a shared mythology across Rockstar's universes. The obscurity lies in the subtlety. Only players who study details notice these threads. Dynamic weather deepens environmental immersion. Rain slicks roads, creating reflections that shimmer under neon lights. Fog rolls into valleys, shrouding forests in mystery. Thunderstorms rumble across deserts, flashing lightning over cacti and cliffs. Each weather pattern changes not only atmosphere, but animal behavior. Deer are less active in storms, while coyotes prowl more aggressively at night. The obscurity lies in the systems running silently beneath the surface, influencing the world in ways most players never realize. Time of day carries equal weight. Sunsets turn Vinewood Boulevard golden, while dawn in the desert paints the sand pink. Nighttime transforms Los Santos into a glittering metropolis, while rural areas fall into eerie silence. NPC schedules shift with the clock shops open and close. Fishermen appear at specific hours. Joggers take to the beach at sunrise. These cycles create an illusion of life beyond the player's actions. Obscurely, some random encounters only occur at certain times, rewarding those who pay attention to the rhythms of the world. Even small details in wildlife interactions carry obscurity. Dogs bark differently depending on whether they are friendly or hostile. Cats dart away from gunfire, sometimes climbing to safety. Seagulls scatter if startled by helicopters. Cougars roar before attacking, but sometimes they stalk silently until the last second. Sharks may circle players without attacking, building dread before striking. These tiny variations ensure that no two encounters feel the same, creating emergent stories in the wilderness. The obscurity of San Andreas's natural world lies not in missions or rewards, but in atmosphere. The animals, landscapes, weather, and cycles form a parallel game running beneath the chaos of crime. Players who stop to explore forests, deserts, and oceans discover a living world, one that tells stories without words. It is a world of obscurities: the growl of a cougar in the brush, the ghost on a cliffside, the wreckage of a forgotten campsite. These details may never be noticed by players speeding through missions, but they define the quiet soul of Grand Theft Auto 5, hidden in plain sight. Cars are the lifeblood of Grand Theft Auto, but in 5, Rockstar transformed vehicles into more than just tools for travel. They became cultural symbols, rewards for exploration, and vessels for hidden mechanics that most players never fully uncover. From rare spawns tucked into corners of the map to customization features buried in menus, the vehicular world of Los Santos is filled with obscurities waiting to be discovered. At first glance, Los Santos Customs appears to be a straightforward mechanic. Players can respray cars, install performance upgrades, or swap body kits. Yet beneath the surface lies a parody of car culture itself. Paint names are filled with absurd references, mocking vanity and excess. Certain upgrades offer no real performance improvement, but exist purely for cosmetic flair, satirizing the obsession with appearance over function. The obscurity here is not in the menu itself, but in the commentary. Rockstar used customization to lampoon how real-world drivers often value image more than practicality. Rare vehicles spawn under specific conditions, forming a treasure hunt that many players never complete. The rusty tractor, an antique relic of San Andreas, appears only in Blaine County at night. Its top speed is laughably slow, yet its presence symbolizes the forgotten rural past of the region. The Dodo seaplane starts spawning as a free roam find after completing Trevor's mission Nervous Ron in story mode. Even rarer is the Space Docker, unlocked only after collecting all 50 spaceship parts. With glowing lights and alien sound effects, it feels more like a parody of science fiction than a functional car. The obscurity lies in the effort required, hours of searching, exploring rooftops, cliffs, and rivers just to unlock a vehicle with no practical advantage beyond novelty. Other vehicles tell stories through their design. The Fib Buffalo, a government sedan, is rarely seen outside specific missions. Obtaining it requires tricking mission triggers or exploiting glitches, making it a prized collectible for dedicated players. The Lost Slam Van, tied to the biker gang The Lost, exists only in certain missions and is almost impossible to keep afterward without mods. These obscurities turn vehicles into trophies, symbols of dedication for those who seek them. Even everyday cars carry subtle obscurities. Certain models spawn more frequently in specific neighborhoods, reflecting socioeconomic commentary. Luxury sports cars cruise Vinewood and Rockford Hills, while beat-up sedans and rusty pickups dominate Blaine County. Rockstar designed spawn rates to reflect wealth distribution, embedding satire into traffic itself. Players may never notice consciously, but the world tells its story through the cars on its roads. Aircraft deepen the obscurity of vehicles. Helicopters, planes, and jets populate airfields, yet some are tied to obscure conditions. The P-996 laser fighter jet is locked inside Fort Zancudo, requiring players to infiltrate a military base and survive heavy fire just to steal it. This transforms acquisition into a challenge of skill and persistence. The Titan, a massive cargo plane, is tied to specific spawns and missions, often requiring creative strategies to obtain in free roam. These obscurities make aviation a prize rather than a given, rewarding those who push boundaries. Boats and submarines add another layer. The dinghy and jetmax spawn at specific docks, while the Kraken submarine is unlocked only by completing a side activity tied to wildlife photography in certain editions of the game. Most players never unlock it, making it one of the rarest vehicles in San Andreas. Its obscurity lies not in its power, but in its inaccessibility, hidden behind tasks that feel unrelated to vehicular gameplay. Customization carries hidden depth beyond cosmetics. Performance upgrades affect cars differently depending on their class. A turbo installation may drastically improve acceleration in sports cars, but have little effect on heavier vehicles. Suspension upgrades subtly alter handling, changing how cars drift around corners. These mechanics are rarely explained, requiring experimentation to understand. For dedicated players, discovering the nuances of tuning becomes its own form of obscurity, a hidden science beneath flashy paint jobs. Unique vehicles tie directly into satire. The Liberator, a monster truck decorated with American flags, was introduced during special events in Grand Theft Auto Online, but has roots in Rockstar's parody of excess. Its sheer size and absurdity mock nationalistic bravado, yet it remains a fan favorite. The Go-Go Monkey Blista, a tiny hatchback adorned with cartoon designs, parodies promotional tie-ins, existing only as a collector's item. These obscurities show how Rockstar uses vehicles not just as gameplay mechanics, but as cultural commentary. Obscure missions introduce temporary vehicles that vanish afterward. During minor turbulence, Trevor boards a cargo plane mid-flight, only for it to crash spectacularly. The interior of the plane is detailed, complete with crates and supplies, even though players only see it for minutes. In Derailed, Trevor drives a dirt bike onto a moving train, a set piece that feels like pure chaos but hides carefully scripted physics. These missions use vehicles not only as transport, but as stages for storytelling, embedding obscurities into fleeting moments. Even police vehicles contain obscurities. The Rhino tank, a staple of earlier Grand Theft Auto games, returns in 5, but its spawn conditions are restricted to Fort Zancudo. Obtaining it requires persistence and often sacrifice, as few players survive long enough to steal it. Police cruisers vary depending on district, with Blaine County sheriffs driving older models and city police using newer sedans. This subtlety reflects class divides, even within law enforcement, embedding commentary into pursuit mechanics. Obscurities also lie in the destruction of vehicles. Damage modeling in Grand Theft Auto 5 is far more advanced than in previous entries. Cars crumple realistically, windows shatter based on impact, and tires deform under stress. Some obscure details include how cars sink differently in water depending on weight, or how specific materials spark when scraped against concrete. Rockstar invested in realism that most players overlook, ensuring that even wreckage tells a story. Vehicle-related side activities carry hidden gems. Street races scattered across Los Santos test driving skills, yet obscure dialogue during them reveals commentary on car culture. Competitors boast about their vehicles, mock rivals, and comment on class and status. Off-road races in Blaine County showcase different terrain, with dialogue mocking rural stereotypes. These small touches add flavor to what might otherwise be simple gameplay loops. Even garages contain obscurities. Each protagonist has limited storage, reflecting personality. Michael prefers luxury cars, Franklin gravitates towards sports models, and Trevor embraces chaos with mismatched vehicles. Parked cars sometimes trigger unique dialogue when characters comment on what they own. These subtle differences reinforce identity through possessions, making vehicles part of storytelling rather than just tools. The obscurity of vehicles in Grand Theft Auto 5 is that they function as both mechanics and symbols. They carry satire, reward exploration, and reflect character. Rare spawns like the Space Docker, cut mission vehicles like the Lost Slam Van, and customization quirks hidden in Los Santos Customs form a parallel narrative beneath the chaos. For those who seek them, the roads of San Andreas are paved not only with speed and violence, but with secrets hidden in steel, rubber, and chrome. Weapons have always defined Grand Theft Auto, shaping how players interact with the chaos of the world. In 5, the arsenal is not just functional, but layered with obscurities, from hidden mechanics that change how combat unfolds to satire embedded in brand names and design. Every gun, melee weapon, and explosive tells a story not just of violence, but of culture, parody, and detail hidden beneath the surface. The ammunition stores are the most obvious window into the game's weaponry, but they themselves are satire. The clerks cheerfully promote deadly weapons as if they were household tools, their dialogue mocking gun culture with exaggerated enthusiasm. Posters on the walls advertise absurd promotions, such as free ammunition with every firearm purchase, parodying real-world marketing. Even the background music in Ammunition is upbeat and patriotic, heightening the absurdity. The obscurity lies in how much effort went into turning these stores into cultural commentary rather than mere gameplay mechanics. Each firearm carries unique handling traits, many of which are not explained directly to the player. Certain pistols have faster draw speeds, while some rifles deal more damage against vehicles due to hidden armor-piercing qualities. Obscure stats govern recoil, reload time, and accuracy, encouraging experimentation. The advanced rifle, for example, has recoil patterns that subtly pull left, requiring adjustment during sustained fire. The obscurity lies in the design. Rockstar embedded complexity without tutorials, leaving players to discover nuances on their own. Attachments add another layer of hidden depth. Suppressors reduce noise, but also slightly decrease damage. Extended magazines often alter reload animations, adding subtle character to each weapon. Scopes behave differently depending on whether they are used on rifles, carbines, or sniper weapons, with zoom levels affecting not just vision but sway. The flashlight attachment is often overlooked, yet it illuminates dark interiors and missions, revealing environmental details players might otherwise miss. These mechanics turn customization into more than visual flair. It changes how combat feels. Satire permeates weapon branding. Ammunition catalogs are filled with names like the Homing Launcher, a parody of military escalation, or the Widowmaker, a weapon whose name exaggerates lethality to absurd degrees. The design of weapons often mocks real-world counterparts. The pistol, .50, resembles the Desert Eagle, long associated with excess and overcompensation, while the minigun is presented as a casual purchase, lampooning America's relationship with firearms. Obscurities lie in how these parodies blend into the background, noticed only when players pause to examine them. Melee weapons hide their own obscurities. The crowbar, baseball bat, hammer, and golf club are all functional, yet their animations differ subtly. The golf club swings with a wide arc, while the hammer lands with brutal blunt force. Trevor has unique kill animations tied to melee weapons, reflecting his volatility. In random moments, Michael and Franklin may perform different finishing moves, adding variety that most players overlook. Obscurely, some melee weapons can be found only in specific locations rather than purchased, rewarding exploration. Explosives deepen the obscurity. Sticky bombs can be attached to vehicles, walls, or even NPCs, allowing creative ambushes. Grenades roll realistically across slopes, affected by gravity. Molotov cocktails create fires that spread dynamically, burning grass, vehicles, and even pedestrians who wander too close. These mechanics operate silently beneath chaos, turning explosions into unpredictable spectacles. Many players use explosives without noticing the subtle physics that govern them, obscurities hidden in flames and shrapnel. The arsenal includes heavy weapons tied to specific moments. The RPG offers raw destruction, while the minigun, unlocked later, unleashes overwhelming firepower. The railgun, introduced in certain editions and later in online, represents futuristic satire, an energy weapon presented as just another consumer product. Its obscurity lies in how it blurs parody and science fiction, existing in a world otherwise grounded in realism. One of the most obscure details lies in how weapons interact with environments. Shooting water creates ripples and splashes, each bullet disturbing the surface differently depending on caliber. Firing into sand or dirt creates sprays of debris. Shooting glass produces unique shatter patterns, with some windows breaking fully and others cracking realistically. These details exist purely for immersion, unnoticed by many players who fire weapons only in missions. NPCs also respond differently to weapons. Pulling a pistol in the city causes panic, while aiming a rocket launcher at pedestrians often leads to exaggerated screams. Police escalate responses depending on the weapon you display. Brandishing a melee weapon may earn warnings, while heavy weapons trigger immediate lethal force. These obscurities show how deeply weapons are tied to social systems in Los Santos, turning combat into commentary on law and order. Some missions highlight obscure weapon mechanics. In Caída Libre, Franklin uses a specialized sniper rifle to shoot down a plane, introducing bullet drop and wind sway rarely emphasized elsewhere. In Minor Turbulence, Trevor hijacks a cargo plane, fighting enemies in close quarters where melee weapons shine. These missions act as showcases for weapon variety, embedding mechanics into narrative moments that many players never dissect. Hidden weapon spawns add further obscurity. Certain rooftops, construction sites, and secluded alleys contain powerful weapons left behind, rewarding players who explore. The minigun becomes purchasable at Ammunition after the Paleto score, and there's a free pickup inside the Fort Zancudo control tower. These placements encourage curiosity, turning scavenging into discovery. Many of these weapons are unnecessary for completing missions, but exist to enrich free roam with rewards. Online gameplay expanded the arsenal into absurdity, adding futuristic weapons, novelty melee items, and explosive-laden vehicles. Yet traces of these additions remain in single-player files, suggesting they were once considered for broader use. The obscurity lies in how development blurred lines between modes, with ideas shifting from one context to another over time. Even sound design carries obscure richness. Each gun has unique audio, recorded from real firearms. Suppressed weapons whisper with subtle differences, depending on caliber, while explosions echo differently in canyons versus city streets. Rockstar's audio team spent months recording weapons in varied environments, embedding realism that most players absorb subconsciously. These sounds make combat feel authentic without drawing attention to themselves. Obscurities hidden in the background. The arsenal of Grand Theft Auto V is not just about destruction, it is about detail, parody, and mechanics most players never notice. From melee animations to environmental interactions, from hidden spawns to satirical branding, weapons carry stories beyond missions. They are cultural commentary disguised as tools of chaos, obscurities woven into every bullet, blade, and blast across San Andreas. Grand Theft Auto 5 broke new ground with its heist system, turning large-scale robberies into cinematic events that players could approach in different ways. These missions are among the most memorable in the series, yet their true obscurities lie in the details, branching options, hidden dialogue, and subtle design choices that many players never realize exist. Behind every loud explosion and high-speed getaway is a web of small decisions and unseen threads. The very structure of heists is an obscurity in itself. Each major robbery allows players to choose between two approaches: a subtle method relying on stealth and precision, or a loud approach filled with chaos and violence. On the surface, this seems like a gameplay decision, but Rockstar used it as satire. The subtle option often ends up collapsing into chaos, mocking the idea that crime can be neat or efficient. Conversely, the loud approach embraces spectacle, leaning into Hollywood tropes. The obscurity is that both paths reveal the same truth: crime is messy, no matter how carefully planned. The Jewel Store Job, the first major heist, introduces this system. Michael, Franklin, and their crew can either gas the store to knock out guards quietly or storm inside guns blazing. What most players miss is how much hidden dialogue depends on crew choice. Hire cheaper, inexperienced crew members, and they may fumble during the mission, dropping loot, crashing getaway vehicles, or even dying outright. More expensive professionals handle tasks smoothly, but they take a larger cut of the profit. The obscurity lies in how these choices reflect real heist dynamics: greed versus efficiency, loyalty versus pragmatism. Later heists expand this branching complexity. In the Merryweather heist, players can choose between intercepting a freighter or raiding an offshore rig with a submersible. The two approaches create entirely different missions, with unique mechanics and environments, yet both converge on the same outcome: Trevor's obsession with Merryweather and the futility of stealing experimental technology. The obscurity is that no matter how you play, the story bends toward its themes of greed and frustration. The illusion of choice reinforces satire. Players feel empowered, but outcomes remain scripted. The Paleto Score, one of the most famous missions, stands out for its absurdity. The protagonists rob a small-town bank, donning heavy armor and wielding miniguns to fight waves of police. Obscure details enrich the chaos. If players linger during the escape, they overhear townsfolk commenting on the destruction, mocking small-town America's vulnerability to big-city criminals. Dialogue shifts depending on which protagonist leads certain sections, altering tone subtly. The mission is remembered for spectacle, but its obscurities lie in background voices and branching dialogue most players never stop to hear. Blitz Play, another heist, satirizes police ambushes and Hollywood-style armored car robberies. The obscurity comes from its planning phase. Lester outlines the mission with a series of crude sketches on a whiteboard, mocking the illusion of professionalism. Players often rush through this planning, but Lester's commentary changes depending on crew members and previous choices, weaving continuity across missions. These shifting details create a sense of living narrative, obscured by the chaos of gunfire once the mission begins. Perhaps the most obscure heist is the Bureau Raid, which offers two radically different approaches: infiltration through stealth, disguised as janitors, or a frontal assault. The stealth route involves setting charges, sneaking through offices, and creating controlled explosions, while the loud approach devolves into firefights through government hallways. Each path includes unique dialogue with obscure references to political corruption and surveillance. If players choose the stealth option, they even get a glimpse of everyday office life inside government buildings, a rare perspective in a series dominated by crime and chaos. Crew members themselves carry obscurities. Many are introduced in side content, like Packy McReary, a character from Grand Theft Auto 4, who can be recruited if players encounter him during a random event. If included in heists, he comments on his past, tying narratives across games. Other crew members, like Norm Richards or Hugh Welsh, are weaker choices who may die if selected, creating hidden variations in missions. Rockstar designed these deaths not as scripted moments, but as consequences of player choice, adding obscurity to each replay. Beyond heists, smaller missions hide their own secrets. In Father-Son, where Michael rescues his son from a stolen yacht, unique dialogue triggers if players fail at certain points, with characters mocking incompetence. In Complications, Franklin sneaks into Michael's house to repossess a car, but if players explore too much, they can overhear Amanda arguing with her yoga instructor. These moments enrich storylines with obscure character details, rewarding curiosity during missions that otherwise seem straightforward. Trevor's missions often contain the darkest obscurities. In Mr. Phillips, his introduction mission, players can explore his trailer to find notes and photographs that flesh out his obsession with Michael and Brad. In Nervous Ron, Trevor and his neighbor sabotage a rival gang with dialogue that shifts depending on whether players use stealth or chaos. Even Trevor's Rampage side missions are filled with subtle satire, mocking video game violence while immersing players in it. The obscurity is that these missions serve dual purposes, narrative and parody. Obscure branching moments occur throughout the campaign. In Fresh Meat, when Michael is kidnapped, players control Franklin as he hunts down his friend. If players take too long, unique dialogue reveals Michael's suffering. In Caida Libre, if players investigate the crash site thoroughly, they find debris and luggage scattered across hillsides, environmental storytelling most players miss. These small choices shape memory, creating different experiences across playthroughs. The ending of Grand Theft Auto 5 holds perhaps the most significant obscurity. Players face three choices: kill Trevor, kill Michael, or choose the Death Wish option, where Franklin fights to save both. Each ending carries unique cutscenes, dialogue, and consequences, yet Rockstar embedded subtle details into these branches. If Franklin kills Trevor, Michael later distances himself, and Franklin's ambitions feel hollow. If Franklin kills Michael, Trevor becomes suspicious and distant. Only the Death Wish ending allows the trio to remain intact, yet even then, dialogue hints at unresolved tension. The obscurity lies in how endings reflect the illusion of choice. Players feel empowered, but all options emphasize themes of betrayal, loyalty, and survival. Unused files suggest that alternate endings were once considered. Data miners found traces of dialogue hinting at different fates for secondary characters, perhaps planned for expanded endings. These fragments add mystery, suggesting that the story we know is only one version of Rockstar's vision. The heists and missions of Grand Theft Auto 5 are not just cinematic set pieces, they are layered with obscurities that reward replay and curiosity. From hidden dialogue to alternate outcomes, from background satire to cut content, the story is richer than it first appears. The chaos of explosions and gunfire often drowns out the subtleties, but for those who listen closely, the campaign becomes a tapestry of choice, consequence, and hidden detail. Beneath the glittering lights of Vinewood and the wide freeways of Los Santos lies an entire world of gangs, factions, and criminal organizations. They shape neighborhoods, influence missions, and populate the background with stories that many players never notice. Grand Theft Auto V uses these groups to satirize real-world crime culture while embedding layers of detail into the streets and deserts of San Andreas. Their obscurities are not just in their activities, but in the subtle ways they interact with each other, with the protagonists, and with the very fabric of the city. The Families are one of the most prominent gangs in Los Santos. Inspired by real-life street gangs, they are tied directly to Franklin's story. Green is their color, marking territories in areas like Chamberlain Hills and Strawberry. Franklin's friendship with Lamar keeps him close to the Families, even as he dreams of leaving street life behind. The obscurity lies in the details of their environment. Murals painted across walls, graffiti marking territory, and NPC dialogue that reflects gang culture. Walk through their neighborhoods, and you overhear conversations about loyalty, betrayals, and the constant pressure of rivalries. These subtleties paint a world beyond missions, showing how deeply gang life permeates the community. The Ballas are the sworn rivals of the Families, clad in purple and occupying neighborhoods like Davis and Rancho. Their conflict with the Families drives much of Franklin's early story, echoing long-running rivalries from earlier Grand Theft Auto titles. Obscure details appear in how NPCs behave in their turf. Wearing green near Ballas territory often triggers hostility, while Ballas members taunt players passing by. Their dialogue references past events, mocking the Families and boasting about control. Even graffiti tags often overlap, with Families and Ballas symbols painted over each other, reflecting an ongoing war that never truly ends. Another faction tied to Los Santos's underworld is the Vagos, a Hispanic gang marked by yellow. They dominate areas like Rancho and Cypress Flats, and their presence is felt in side missions and random encounters. The Vagos specialize in drug trafficking, with hidden stashes found in their neighborhoods. Obscure details in their territory include abandoned lots filled with cars used for smuggling and murals depicting cultural pride mixed with gang identity. NPC dialogue reinforces their role, with members shouting in Spanish or referencing criminal enterprises. Their obscurities are environmental, woven into the streets rather than overt missions. Beyond street gangs, the Lost Motorcycle Club adds another layer of obscurity. Returning from Grand Theft Auto IV, The Lost and Damned, they operate in Blaine County and parts of Los Santos. Trevor's story intersects heavily with them, as he wages war against their members in Sandy Shores. Their encampments are detailed with biker culture references, patch jackets, customized choppers, and murals of skulls. Obscure details appear in the remnants of their destroyed hangouts, where discarded bottles, burnt tents, and vandalized walls tell the story of Trevor's rampage. Members of the Lost patrol highways in groups, sometimes ambushing players in random events. Their persistence makes them feel alive, a faction that reacts dynamically to player actions. The Aztecas, another gang, populate Blaine County with their own flavor of organized crime. Trevor often clashes with them, particularly in drug-running missions. Their obscurities are tied to vehicles they favor, specific lowriders and motorcycles, reflecting cultural identity. Their dialogue references both heritage and criminal activity, blending pride with menace. Unlike the Ballas or Families, their turf is less about painted neighborhoods and more about rural control, with meth labs hidden in trailers and barns. Their presence creates tension in the countryside, where otherwise empty spaces hold hidden threats. Cartels and international crime syndicates appear subtly throughout the game, though not as prominent as local gangs. Dialogue and environmental storytelling reference broader networks of smuggling. Some random events hint at drug shipments being intercepted or stolen, suggesting global connections behind local rivalries. Obscure details appear in the form of graffiti referencing cartel influence, or NPCs casually mentioning bosses outside San Andreas. These fleeting references create the illusion of a larger world, one where Los Santos is just one hub in a network of crime. The Chinese gang led by Wei Chung plays a more direct role in the main story. Trevor attempts to partner with them, but his volatility leads to conflict. Their base of operations, a discreet restaurant, contains obscure details and decor, with cultural motifs blending with hidden rooms for criminal deals. Wei Cheng's son, Tao, provides comic relief with his inebriated behavior, but his presence also reveals how international crime syndicates exploit Los Santos's chaos. Dialogue in these missions references broader drug trade operations, connecting the city's criminal underworld to global markets. Merryweather Security, while not a gang, functions as a faction with its own obscurities. This private military company represents corporate power, blurring the line between business and crime. They operate freighters, airships, and armored convoys, often clashing with the protagonists during heists. Their obscurities lie in satire. Merryweather mocks the rise of private military contractors in the real world, turning warfare into a profit-driven enterprise. NPC dialogue from their soldiers often references training, contracts, and disdain for civilians, reinforcing their role as mercenaries for hire. Even smaller factions carry details most players miss. The hillbillies in Blaine County ambush trespassers with shotguns, their homes littered with obscure environmental storytelling, dismantled furniture, hunting trophies, and bizarre notes scrawled across walls. The altruist cult, hidden deep in the mountains, sacrifices hitchhikers in bizarre rituals, their compound filled with graffiti praising violence and cannibalism. These groups rarely impact the main story, yet their presence enriches the world with eccentric danger. NPC behaviors across territories carry some of the richest obscurities. Families members sometimes play basketball in their neighborhoods, while Ballast members gather around lowriders, blasting music. Vagos NPCs hold barbecues or lounge on porches, reflecting culture beyond violence. These moments humanize factions, showing them not only as criminals, but as communities with their own rhythms. The obscurity is that players who rush through missions miss these glimpses of life. Graffiti across Los Santos ties these factions together. Murals in families' turf memorialize fallen members, while Ballast graffiti taunts rivals. Some tags reference earlier Grand Theft Auto titles, creating continuity across the series. The detail is so extensive that players can spend hours cataloging graffiti without exhausting its variety. These obscurities reinforce the idea that gangs are not abstract enemies, but living presences shaping the city. The criminal underworld extends into legitimate businesses. Car dealerships, bars, and clubs often act as fronts for laundering money or staging deals. NPC dialogue in these locations reveals hints of corruption. A bartender might mention protection payments, while a mechanic jokes about fixing cars for smugglers. These details create obscurities that link the visible economy with hidden crime, blurring the line between legal and illegal. What makes the gangs and factions of Grand Theft Auto V so rich in obscurities is Rockstar's refusal to treat them as one-dimensional. They are not just enemies to shoot during missions. They have neighborhoods, cultures, behaviors, and histories embedded into the world. From the family's basketball courts to the Ballas's graffiti wars, from the Lost's biker hangouts to the Altruist's mountain compound, every group carries hidden depth. These obscurities remind players that Los Santos is not only a city of protagonists, but a city of factions, each carving out a piece of identity in a landscape built on conflict. Money drives Grand Theft Auto 5. It fuels the narrative, motivates the characters, and saturates every corner of Los Santos with greed. Yet beneath the obvious heists and flashy purchases lies an economy of satire, an entire network of parody corporations and fake brands that lampoon modern consumer culture. The obscurity of this economic landscape is that it often blends into the background, visible in billboards, store shelves, stock markets, and NPC chatter, but rarely acknowledged outright. For those who stop to look closely, Los Santos becomes not just a playground of crime, but a biting commentary on capitalism itself. The most direct satire of the economy appears in the stock markets. Two exchanges, BAWSAQ and LCN, allow players to buy and sell shares, influenced by in-game events. The LCN functions like a parody of Wall Street, with companies tied to everyday products, fast food, and transportation. Missions directly affect stocks, such as assassinations, where Franklin eliminates rival executives, causing one company's value to plummet while another rises. The obscurity lies in the details. If players time their investments correctly, they can become millionaires without ever lifting a gun again. This mechanic is both a reward and a satire, mocking insider trading and the illusion of fairness in financial markets. Bozak deepens the parody by linking to Rockstar's online servers, influenced by the collective actions of players worldwide. A company may rise in value because players buy its cars more frequently or crash because fewer players use its services. The obscurity here is that it transforms satire into reality, creating a living parody of real stock markets where value is often dictated by unpredictable human behavior. For many players, this system went unnoticed, yet it is one of Rockstar's most ambitious hidden mechanics. Fake corporations saturate the world with parody. Cluck and Bell mocks fast food chains, with restaurants plastered across Los Santos. Their menu items, described in absurdly unhealthy ways, poke fun at consumer diets. Peacewasser, a parody beer, appears on billboards and in NPC dialogue, lampooning cheap alcohol culture. E-Cola, the series' take on Coca-Cola, is marketed with slogans that parody the absurd promises of soft drink advertising. These brands clutter the cityscape, creating an illusion of consumer saturation so thick that it becomes background noise. The obscurity lies in realizing that every ad, every logo, and every product is a joke layered with cultural critique. Even convenience stores reflect economic satire. 24. 7 shops sell snacks, sodas, and lottery tickets, each product carrying absurd descriptions. Candy brands like Ego Chaser and Meteorites parody energy foods, mocking marketing that sells sugar as health. Ammunition stores parody America's gun culture by selling weapons alongside patriotic slogans. Suburban, Binco, and Ponsonby's parody different fashion tiers, discount retail, hipster chic, and luxury pretension. Each store mocks not just clothing, but the social classes they represent, embedding satire into shopping mechanics. Real estate offers another layer of obscurity. Characters can purchase properties ranging from car impound lots to theaters, generating passive income. While this seems like a straightforward economic system, the details reveal parity. Property descriptions mock real estate jargon, promising stability while hinting at corruption. NPC dialogue tied to properties often satirizes landlords, tenants, and business owners. Even the process of property management sending texts about problems like worker strikes or tenant complaints parodies the headaches of capitalism. Many players ignore these messages, yet they form a tapestry of economic obscurities hidden behind mechanics. NPCs themselves parody economic culture. On street corners, homeless NPCs hold signs with slogans mocking consumerism and inequality. Businessmen on phones brag about deals, while pedestrians complain about bills, rent, or credit card debt. Some NPCs casually mention losing homes to foreclosure, referencing the financial crises of the late 2000s. These conversations, easy to miss in the chaos, embed social commentary into background chatter. The obscurity lies in their frequency. Listen long enough, and Los Santos becomes a chorus of economic anxiety. Billboards across highways tell stories of consumer excess. Ads for life coaches, diet pills, plastic surgery, and reality shows clutter the skyline. One campaign promotes "accept the truth" with vague spiritual promises, parodying self-help industries. Another mocks pharmaceuticals with slogans suggesting drugs for every inconvenience. Each billboard exists as a piece of satire, yet most players speed past without noticing. The obscurity lies in their sheer density. Los Santos is built as a city drowning in advertising, a reflection of modern consumer landscapes. Financial institutions themselves carry hidden satire. Banks in Los Santos, while rarely interactive, are decorated with posters mocking investment culture. Maze Bank dominates the skyline with its tower, a parody of corporate monopolies. NPC dialogue about banking often references predatory lending and financial collapse. Even the ATMs scattered across the city carry branding filled with jokes, satirizing the impersonal nature of modern finance. These details blend into the background, yet they reinforce the theme of money as both motivator and prison. Rockstar's satire of the economy extends into side missions, assassination missions designed by Lester tied directly into the stock market. Players who invest correctly before completing them can manipulate entire industries for profit. The obscurity is that the game encourages insider trading as a path to success, mocking the illusion of fairness in capitalism. It rewards unethical behavior, embedding satire into mechanics. Many players miss the opportunity to exploit these missions, yet they remain one of the most biting examples of economic commentary. Obscure parody brands also connect across Rockstar's universes. E-Cola, Peiswasser, and Cluck and Bell appear in earlier Grand Theft Auto titles, creating continuity. Sprunk, the parody energy drink, ties into satire of youth culture and health trends. Even companies like Life Invader and iFruit extend beyond Los Santos, suggesting a larger shared world of parody. These brands are not isolated jokes. They form a fictional economy as consistent and absurd as real consumer culture. Hidden interiors reveal more obscurities. Step inside offices or stores, and you often find posters, notes, and objects that expand satire. Some gyms are decorated with motivational posters that mock fitness culture. Bars are filled with branded products, often exaggerated into absurdity. Even vending machines parody consumerism, their logos promising happiness and vitality through sugar and caffeine. These interiors exist primarily as set dressing, yet they deepen immersion into a world obsessed with consumption. The lottery adds another obscure detail. Posters in convenience stores promote absurd odds, mocking gambling culture. NPCs casually mention losing money on tickets, parodying the false hope sold through games of chance. Though players cannot buy tickets themselves, the presence of the lottery enriches satire, embedding commentary into background clutter. The final obscurity of the economy lies in its impact on the protagonists. Michael lives in a mansion, yet his family constantly complains about money. Franklin aspires to wealth, but often feels disconnected from his community. Trevor mocks economic systems by embracing chaos, yet he still profits from crime. Their stories reflect different relationships with capitalism, corruption, aspiration, and rejection. The obscurity is that no protagonist finds fulfillment in money, despite it driving their actions. The satire is woven into character arcs, showing the emptiness of greed. Los Santos is not just a city of cars and crime, it is an economy of satire. Its corporations, brands, and consumer culture form a hidden layer of storytelling. From the absurdity of Bozacu to the unhealthy snacks in convenience stores, from the graffiti of foreclosure protests to the towering Maze Bank headquarters, every corner mocks the pursuit of profit. The obscurities of this economy lie in its subtlety, waiting for players who pause long enough to notice that Los Santos is laughing at them while they chase money through its streets. Beneath the satire and chaos of Grand Theft Auto V lies a world of mysteries and Easter eggs, fragments of the strange and supernatural hidden in plain sight. Rockstar has always filled its worlds with secrets, but in Los Santos and Blaine County, these obscurities reach new levels of depth. They are scattered across mountaintops, deserts, oceans, and alleys, waiting for players who stray from the beaten path. Some are jokes, some are references, and some are unexplained oddities that blur the line between parody and myth. The Mount Chiliad mystery is the most famous, etched into the walls of a shack at the summit. The mural shows symbols of an egg, a jetpack, and a UFO, sparking endless speculation about hidden content. At 3 a.m. during stormy weather, a glowing UFO appears above the peak only after 100% game completion. Other UFOs hover above Fort Zancudo and the Sandy Shores hippie camp at 3 a.m. after 100% completion. The underwater wreck near Paleto Bay is the only one that doesn't require 100%. One rests above Fort Zancudo, another near Sandy Shores, and a barnacle-encrusted craft lies beneath the ocean. These spacecraft are not explained in missions, never mentioned by characters, existing only as secrets for explorers. The obscurity lies in their silence. Rockstar has never fully explained them, leaving fans to wonder whether they are clues, jokes, or ghosts of abandoned ideas. The paranormal extends beyond UFOs. On Mount Gordo, a ghostly woman appears at night, vanishing if approached too closely. Her name, written in blood on the rocks, ties her to a backstory of murder involving Jock Cranley, a politician referenced in multiple Grand Theft Auto titles. She exists as an Easter egg, never acknowledged in dialogue, but her presence unsettles players who stumble upon her alone in the dark. The obscurity is that she is entirely unnecessary for gameplay. She exists only as atmosphere, a reminder that San Andreas hides horrors beneath its satire. Underwater exploration reveals further mysteries. Shipwrecks, cargo containers, and submarines dot the ocean floor, but among them lies a crashed UFO covered in marine life. Diving here reveals no answers, only questions about why it is there. Other obscure finds include skeletons in sunken cars, environmental storytelling that hints at unseen tragedies. The ocean is vast, and much of it goes unexplored, making these discoveries feel like true secrets. Rockstar also scattered references to their other games across San Andreas. In Trevor's trailer, a book titled Red Dead sits on a shelf, a nod to the Red Dead Redemption series. Graffiti across Los Santos references characters and brands from earlier Grand Theft Auto titles. Some billboards parody franchises from Rockstar's catalog, creating a shared universe of satire. The obscurity here is that continuity is hidden in the margins, waiting for those who connect dots across games. Even random NPC dialogue contains obscure references. Conspiracy theorists mutter about aliens, secret projects, and government cover-ups. Some pedestrians reference ghosts, cults, or strange sightings. These lines often appear only once, easily drowned out by traffic or gunfire, but they contribute to the city's mythos. The obscurity is that Rockstar built an entire folklore into throwaway lines, giving Los Santos a culture of rumors as much as reality. Easter eggs also take playful forms. Bigfoot, long rumored in San Andreas, appears in a side mission where Franklin hunts what seems to be the mythical creature, only to reveal a man in a costume. Yet in specific conditions, including certain weather and story progress, a true Sasquatch appears briefly, never explained. This blurs parody and reality, mocking conspiracy theories while fueling them. Obscure files also suggest unused content tied to cryptids, hinting at more ambitious plans. The Infinity Killer adds another layer of darkness. Scattered notes and environmental clues reveal the story of a serial killer named Merle Abrahams, obsessed with the number 8. His house, filled with disturbing writings, can be explored, and his victims' remains are found in the ocean. This storyline is never part of the main missions, existing only for those who piece together the clues. The obscurity lies in its subtlety. It is one of the most chilling narratives in the game, yet most players never encounter it fully. References to film and pop culture also serve as Easter eggs. The Vinewood sign, the Walk of Fame, and parody movie posters fill Los Santos with satirical nods. Entire interiors are decorated with references to real franchises, often mocking them. Even vehicles parody cultural icons, such as muscle cars named after exaggerated versions of real models. The obscurity is that these references are both background jokes and part of the city's identity, a satire of Hollywood hidden in plain sight. Supernatural elements extend into strange glitches that players interpret as mysteries. The so-called Chiliad jetpack conspiracy emerged partly from unused scripts, but also from players discovering odd triggers and anomalies in the game. Whether intentional or not, these quirks became part of the folklore, with entire communities dedicated to unraveling them. The obscurity is that Rockstar never confirmed or denied many of these theories, letting myth-making thrive. Obscure details also appear in character homes. Michael's house contains movie posters referencing fictional films with absurd premises. Franklin's home decor changes as he moves up in wealth, reflecting satire of status symbols. Trevor's trailer is filled with disturbing clutter, some of which references events never shown. Each object tells a story, forming Easter eggs that expand lore without explanation. Even sound design hides secrets. Strange noises echo in specific areas, from howling winds near mountains to unsettling creaks in abandoned buildings. Some players report hearing whispers or unexplained sounds near Mount Chiliad, fueling theories of hidden content. Whether intentional or the result of environmental audio design, these obscurities add atmosphere. Perhaps the most enduring obscurity of Grand Theft Auto V is its deliberate ambiguity. Rockstar built a world where mysteries like UFOs, ghosts, and serial killers exist without resolution. The mural on Mount Chiliad remains unsolved, the ghost on Mount Gordo offers no answers, and the Infinity Killer's motives are left open. These obscurities are powerful because they resist closure. They transform Los Santos into not just a parody of modern life, but a place of folklore, superstition, and unsolved secrets. The Easter eggs of Grand Theft Auto V blur the line between parody and myth, reality and fiction. From UFOs and ghosts to cryptids and killers, the world is alive with obscurities that enrich its atmosphere. They are not missions, rewards, or progression systems. They are mysteries, scattered across deserts and oceans, whispered in dialogue, etched in murals, and hidden in ruins. For players willing to explore, Los Santos becomes not just a city of crime, but a world of legends, where satire coexists with the supernatural, and where the most obscure details are often the most memorable.